An unsolved murder in Mexico is the focus of a special Fifth Estate investigation on CBC television tonight. Not just any murder in a country with tens of thousands of violent killings every year. This was the murder of a branch manager for a Canadian bank in Mexico. The story led the Fifth Estate's Bob McEwen on a money trail to secret accounts in Switzerland and into the underworld of money laundering in Mexico. He has more on the investigation, but first here is an excerpt.
By September 2001, almost $5 million were gone from a large investment account at this Scotiabank branch in Mexico City. The account holder hadn't discovered that yet, nor had Scotiabank, because the transaction had been hidden by the branch manager, Maru Oropeza. But now Maru was missing. She hadn't come home to her two young sons the night before, and a terrifying telephone call said she'd been kidnapped.
Maru Oropeza, why don't you tell me about who she was and what happened to her?
Well, as you said, she was a manager for a branch of Scotiabank in a very affluent neighborhood in central Mexico City called Polanco. Very well-to-do, very Tony. And the thing that sets this apart, among others, is she's so different from most murder victims in Mexico. You talked about tens of thousands every year. You're 14 times more likely to become a homicide victim in Mexico than you are in Canada. But she was different. Most of them are young males in the drug business. She wasn't that. She was female. She was a mom. She was a career woman. Prestigious job as a branch manager of Scotiabank. So that's one thing. Secondly, the way she died. She was brutally murdered, but the forensic experts we've consulted say she was tortured first, which leads them to believe someone was trying to get some very specific information from her. And then the third thing really is a dozen years later, the two questions remain unanswered, despite exhaustive investigation by Scotiabank itself and some investigation by the Mexican police. Who killed her and why? So that's really what got our interest.
And your investigative trail leads you to money laundering. How big of a problem is this in Mexico?
Well, pervasive, of course. Being one of the world's great way stations for illegal drugs, Mexico has the criminal proceeds to match, the illicit cash that has to be sanitized, laundered somehow so it can be of use to somebody. So that's one thing. What that means is, and I'm sure the executives a few blocks away from us right now at Scotiabank in Toronto at their head office thought this immediately too when they learned about Maru's death, that there was a connection between the way she died and her job.
And you can watch Bob's full report, The Murder and the Money Trail, tonight. It airs on CBC television at 9 p.m., 9:30 in Newfoundland, and right here on CBC News Network tomorrow night at 8 or Sunday at 7 p.m.